All right, appointed tonight, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who was acting Chief Justice. He now is Chief Justice. Joining me in studio is SABC News' political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje. I guess it would be an immediate appointment. We now call him Chief Justice.
Well, that's from the 1st of April. So I think it's the 10th of March now. I think about 20 more days.
So we've got about two and a half weeks or so.
But he's acting. So he's in the position already. He just needs to...
So he was the natural successor. If you look at succession, being the deputy often moves up anyway, and the acting is the one who's the incumbent when we didn't have a Chief Justice. But then the fly in the ointment was the Judicial Service Commission that came along and looked at 4 candidates that the President presented, which is unusual. Usually only one goes to the JSC. And they endorsed a different candidate, Justice Maya.
Yes, in fact, maybe just a bit of correction. You'd remember before when Justice Mogoeng was appointed Chief Justice, so Justice Mogoeng had been the Deputy Chief Justice. So he was not appointed Chief Justice. Thanks. So it wouldn't be really a foregone conclusion. Yes. So, but what we expected, Francis, as you've correctly stated, was that the President was going to do his nomination. But interestingly, he nominated 4 people, and then those names that had to go to the JSC. And as we know what the JSE did in terms of concluding its process, so it actually recommended a different candidate. And interestingly, someone who also has been nominated, or rather the President intends nominating her as the Deputy Chief Justice upon Chief Justice now the incoming Chief Justice taking the position, because the deputy one would be vacant. Yeah,
he said that pointedly along with this, that he would then recommend her as the deputy. So a nod to her and saying she can still move into the position. Some argued that the JSC had no right, in fact, to endorse a candidate. So now the President is in this awkward position of having to choose an alternative candidate. But did they have the authority to recommend in the first place?
Well, maybe let's start at the whole process, Francis. I mean, as some are even saying, there was perhaps no need for the President to come up with so many names, because once you do that, it would create a situation really where perhaps people will think you actually do not know who you want. And then when the process then comes out the way it does, it will have its own interpretations. Yes, the JSE, its responsibility was obviously to interview the candidates and, of course, submit the report to the President, who is, in terms of the Constitution, is the one who can appoint. But, of course, we know what the JSE did, and it nominated Justice Mandisa Maya. And by the way, before I forget this point, by her being nominated as the Deputy Chief Justice, so it's actually still a win. Remember, today is the International Day of Women Justices of Women Judges. So clearly, it's an important.
Gender came up a lot in those interviews. We'll talk about it if we get to it. Please stay with us. Our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje, on the line. However, we have the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe. Let's get some political reaction. Mr. Mabe, your reaction to Raymond Zondo as the new Chief Justice?
Well, afternoon to your viewers. In appointing the Chief Justice, the President exercised his powers in line with the Constitution, as granted to him by Section 1743 of the Constitution, empowering him to effectively take forward the decision he has taken. But in doing so, he has also consulted with the Judicial Service Commission, including calling on members of the public to express their view, having an independent judge who would have presided over that process. If you recall, that process was undertaken in September last year. Ultimately, the President makes that final decision on who will be the head or take charge of our judiciary in the country. Safe to say that Judge Raymond Zondo, in his new role, would have had to fulfill one of the most daunting tasks of chairing the Commission on State Capture. But of course, he brings with him solid credentials in the judicial space. It is the president's prerogative, having exercised all of the things that one would have spoken to, empowered by the Constitution, making the consultation that he has made. We can only wish the newly appointed Chief Justice well in his new role, and hope that he will play a critical role in the transformation of the judiciary and making sure that the judiciary becomes the very important body that holds all of us to account and protect the right of everyone in the Republic of South Africa.
All right, thank you very much for that response from the ANC. That was spokesperson Mzwandile Mbeje. He mentioned the Zondo Commission, and of course, Justice Zondo is a household name, a household face because of the Zondo Commission. He said going into that he knew he would make enemies. And that would obviously play out in any sort of battle for future leadership. He still took it. Do we commend him for that, as the ANC is doing?
Well, I guess, he took on a very massive task, and I guess not many people would want to take the kind of responsibility. And of course, it showed during the process, and we know that him having taken that responsibility, even led to the jailing of the former president. Because remember, it was as a result of that whole process. So clearly, something that had never happened before. So it showed that it was a huge responsibility, even as the reports, remember, the reports aren't done yet. And as the reports are coming out, so perhaps even more enemies are going to be made. Interestingly, tomorrow, the Deputy Minister of Defense, Thabang Makwetla, is going to be responding. Remember, the Zondo Commission basically said he needs to be investigated and actually prosecuted. So what will his response be? We've heard what Raymond, the national chair of the ANC, and of course the Minister of Mineral Resources, how he responded to that. So to him being referred for investigation. So clearly, this task was going to ruffle feathers one way or the other.
Yeah, it's definitely put him in the line of fire. We've seen claims against the acting Chief Justice. Let's speak to the EFF now. Sinawo Tambo, thank you for being with us. The EFF's response to Raymond Zondo being appointed.
Look, the EFF thinks that the appointment of Raymond Zondo is short-sighted, exceptional and uninspired, because in our understanding that Raymond Zondo has been a politically divisive force in South African society over the couple of years, and he's a member of the judiciary who is prone to descending into the political arena. And this means that he has exhibited by his arrogance and reluctance to be truthful about his relationship with Jacob Zuma, which led to his refusal to recuse himself when confronted with Zuma as a witness at the State Capture Commission in 2021. And this spiteful and vindictive, and of course this honest decision led to one of the greatest security threats in post-democratic South Africa in July 2021, which saw over 300 lives being lost. So in our understanding, this is a very short-sighted decision, but I think the most painful thing that we have been able to realize with this appointment is that it comes at the expense of a qualified and politically independent and credible woman candidate in the form of President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, President Mandisa Maya. Because in our understanding, President Mandisa Maya had the most impressive interview at a forum constituted by duly elected members of parliament and the esteemed members of the legal succession in the form of the JSC. And Ramaphosa is chosen to ignore this recommendation because of his political desire, which means he stands directly opposed to the transformation agenda in South Africa. So for us, Ramaphosa is a weak-spirited man who suffers from low self-esteem, and he represents the primary problem in South Africa in terms of gender inequality, because he has chosen to sideline a capable, uncompromising black woman who has on countless occasions shown that she can recuse herself when her presence can undermine the image of the judiciary.
All right, thank you very much for that response. Sinawo Tambo from the EFF, and in studio I'm with our political editor Mzwandile Mbeje. So talking about those claims, saying that he should have recused himself, that was the claim of former President Jacob Zuma, and then the whole political issue came up when he held a press conference about a minister who was speaking out about judges. Just remind us how he handled that in the interviews.
Yes, and remember, I think one of the things that he had said, and because also people felt, are you not entering into a political space? Why are you responding to the issues raised by the ministers? But I mean, he basically said if it meant costing him the possibility of being appointed the Chief Justice, so be it. And I think perhaps what pained most judges, African judges, perhaps, was basically being referred to as kind of like puppets.
Yeah.
So and I think it hit hard. And I think that's why I think he responded the manner in which he did. But of course, and if you listen to what EFF is saying, there was also the issue here. Judge Zondo is going to be retiring in the next two and a half years or so. And,
let's be clear about that. He only has 2.5 years because there is a limit on the number of years you can actually serve on the Constitutional Court.
Actually, you can serve 12 years or 70 years of age. So if, let's say, you get appointed when you are 65, at 70 you have to stop. But if you are appointed at Constitutional Court at 56, for example, then you can be able to serve the 12 years. Whichever comes first, then you have to exit. So,
we'll talk about that because he said he could still achieve his goals, but there was controversy around the time and the limit on that time. Let's get another quick reaction. Please stay with us. Mzwai, on the line we have FF Plus leader Dr. Peter Groenewald. Dr. Groenewald, the FF Plus's response.
Well, firstly, we want to say that Judge Raymond Zondo was the preferred candidate of the Freedom Front Plus. And the reason why we preferred him is that we say during the Zondo Commission, he proved himself as a person who can act without fear, without favor. He did not hesitate to make recommendations like prosecution and even further investigation, even if it was high-profile politicians. And I think that is what the people of South Africa wants to see, that we have a justice system and the Chief Justice to be impartial and that the treatment must be fair and just. So he was our preferred candidate, and may I wish him well and congratulate him on his new position.
All right, thank you for that, FF Plus leader Dr. Peter Groenewald. And in studio, our political editor, we were talking about the time limit. So he has only 2.5 years. But like I was saying in the interview, he said that is enough time because the questions being asked were around what can you achieve in 2.5 years. I'll come back to you because on the line we have some more political reaction. Dennis Blom from COPE, I believe, is with us, the national spokesperson. Mr. Blom, is COPE happy or unhappy with the appointment of Raymond Zondo as Chief Justice of South Africa?
Good evening, Francis, and good evening to the viewers. We welcome this decision by President Ramaphosa to appoint Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo as the new Chief Justice of South Africa. We think that this is a very sober decision by President Ramaphosa. We don't have any doubt that President Ramaphosa applied his mind properly to come to this decision. This will ensure continuity and bring stability in the office of the Chief Justice. We know that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo is a very experienced person, principled and ethical, and a very hard-working judge. He has proved himself during his term now as chair of the Zondo Commission. He is very firm on when it comes to the law, when it comes to the constitution of this country. Nobody can intimidate this Chief Justice. We are very happy that the President have appointed such a person who is firm with whatever he is doing. We want to thank the President for this appointment.
All right, thank you very much. That was COPE National spokesperson Dennis Blum. And broadly, the political parties are welcoming the appointment of the incoming Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, except the EFF. So we were talking about the time. He has 2.5 years, but he said it was enough.
Remember, he's been part of the do you call it restructuring or the modernization of the court, or the changes that the outgone Chief Justice Mogoeng was implementing. So he felt he's been part of everything that had been done, so it would be easier for him to carry out some of those things. That's why he said the time would not be an issue for him.
And he was quite explicit. He didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There were already plans in place around the judiciary. He just wanted to enforce what had not been done yet. Yes,
absolutely. And even if you look at that, and I think the president is also forward-looking in this appointment. Stability in the short term with Zondo, and bringing in someone in terms of nominating Justice Maya. Remember, it's possible. Remember, it's possible that she could be nominated the next Chief Justice after.
She has all the time in the world to still rise to the post.
She will acquit herself very well with the Constitutional Court. She's from the Supreme Court of Appeals in Bloemfontein. She's not been there. And I guess perhaps those would be some of the things that the president may have thought about, to say, well, she still has time on her side, either the age or even the terms. We've just spoken about 12 years. She still has that on her side. So let her familiarize herself with the functions and the workings of the court. And then from there, when perhaps when Judge Zondo leaves, we don't say she will be appointed, but apparently she stands a very good chance. And I don't see the president going the same route of nominating for, as you have seen what she has done with nominating her for deputy. She just went for one now.
All right, thank you. Mzwandile Mbeje, stay with us. Let's continue this. But Glenys Breitenbach from the DA on the line. The DA's response, Ms. Breitenbach.
Good afternoon. Yeah, the DA is delighted. We congratulate very warmly the new Chief Justice Zondo. We think he's a wonderful appointment. He will bring continuity to that court. He will bring stability to the court that's been without a permanent head for a while now, bearing in mind that the previous Chief Justice Mogoeng was on leave for some time. He's familiar with the court. He's vastly experienced. He brings gravitas to the court. We're delighted with his appointment, and we very warmly congratulate him.
All right, thank you very much. The DA's Glenys Breitenbach. So another political party welcoming this. We heard a nay, however, from the EFF earlier. And one of the claims or accusations that the incoming Chief Justice Raymond Zondo faced was that he's pro the president, that this is a natural appointment because, yes, of course, they're pals. How did he deal with that?
Well, remember, it also came from the panel when those questions, not only for him, even the other candidate, I think Justice Mlambo. So they dealt with those issues. But his answer was basically to say, all I'm doing, I'm applying the law. So if you have proof, bring it. So clearly, the process like that can't be run by like rumors or allegations. So, the judicial process needs facts. Yes, there would always be perceptions. But I think one of the difficulties, perhaps the EFF and perhaps others, would be the so-called political suspicion that people are saying he was gravitating towards. Remember, there were a lot of issues, those questions by one of the commissioners, the leader of the EFF, to say, you met with former President Zuma. So what were those things that you were discussing? So, some of those issues, so others felt maybe he's too close to the political establishment. But as we now know, that's past. He is the next Chief Justice.
And Zondo saying he was appraising I guess, the president of what he was doing, because he was president and Zondo was chairing the commission. So he had to inform him of certain things. I guess there will always be controversy around that. Should he have informed him that should he have informed the president that the president would be appearing at the Zondo commission?
Of course, remember, the commission is a presidential commission. Who is the president at the moment? That's President Cyril Ramaphosa. So if, for example, he needed money, because remember, the commission went into about
and extensions, lots of them.
Extensions, and you needed money. So who do you speak to? And the president, because that is the commission that is set up by the president. So time and again, so you have to have those meetings. So the nature and the form they take, well, we wouldn't be privy to, but of course we'll take the word that they are giving us, and I guess we have no reason to suspect, because there's nothing that we can suspect. I mean, if I want money because I need to do my work, and I come to you and you are the one who has to dish out that money, so who else do I go to? So those are some of the issues. But of course, you juxtapose that with some of the allegations that were put by him meeting, let's say, the former president, and their friendship, and perhaps was it a fallout, and all those things. So, yeah.
All right. Well, this is the announcement. Like you said, from the 1st of April, he will be Chief Justice. So right now he's the incoming Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo. That was our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje. Thank you very much.